All right. So I basically just have nothing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. And welcome back to Rough Draft Research.
Welcome back, everybody.
Week 5 is in the books. We're here for our quarterly countdown, quarterly review.
Yeah.
What do we want to call this one?
We're calling the Q1 review, man.
Q1 review, man.
See how it goes.
So-
5 weeks in the books. Now we got all the fun stuff coming up. Bye weeks and injuries and Taysom Hill shit. So we're just ready for
The Giants are 4-1.
Yeah.
What the hell's happening, man?
that whole division's 4-1.
Well, I think this is an episode for the gurus, so I'm gonna kick it over to you guys and kind of explain what's going on, and let's get after it.
Okay. Well, us gurus, me and Christian here, gonna take it away. No conspiracy theories going on tonight that I know of. But yeah, we're just gonna look at ADP versus where the current standings are, and kind of just talk about who's doing better than we expected, who's doing worse, and maybe a little bit of the situation and if we expect it to improve, or if we think they're going to kind of regress or end up back where we originally thought they might. We each got a couple of players we're going to talk about, and we're just going to go back and forth. I'll let Christian break the ice, or any further explanation if you think it's necessary.
No, not really. Are we starting at a particular position?
Yes, we are.
I must have missed that.
Yeah. I thought I'd give it to you to just jump in where you felt comfortable.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, let's do running backs then. That's a pretty
All right.
obvious one. Let's start on some more positive notes and talk about guys who would be or who are doing better than what their average draft position was. Let's go Miles Sanders. He's the RB12 right now. That would be the best finish of his entire career, which is pretty impressive. Sanders' rushing attempts are up from 11 a game to 17 a game. And what's odd is also that his targets have actually gone down. At this point last season, he was at 19 targets. Right now, he's only at 12. Yeah, it's also weird. That's not the only part that's down, the targets. It's also weird that his yards per attempt is down from 5.5 to 4.8. And yet, one of the more interesting stats about Sanders is last year he had 20 runs of 10 or more yards for the entire season, and right now he's already at 12. So there's some interesting stuff going on here where they're using him more and he's producing more explosive runs, but then he's kind of become just like a better, just pure running back instead of this weird gadget guy that they weren't quite sure what to do with and always try to get him involved in the passing game. And I think it's also a good indication or a good case study on if a guy has been underperforming and then the cast around him dramatically improves, it can cause him to improve because all of a sudden the Eagles are one of the best teams in the league, and now he's a top 15 running back all of a sudden, and you got him in most likely around the 7th, 8th round of your draft. And that's pretty outstanding for a guy that personally I was pretty low on coming into the season, and I don't think I was the only one. But yeah, I just want to shout out Miles Sanders. I know I've done it a few times. Looks like I'm turning Jekyll and Hyde on the Sanders situation, but
Yeah, I mean, I had reason to be weary of him just from past experience. He's a guy that's kind of bit me with just not being able to stay healthy, right? Like he has those explosive games where, he's famous for his 80-yard touchdowns, you know what I mean? Just breaking away the big plays. And like you're saying, that whole team is just firing on all cylinders. and it opens things up for him to just kind of take off and kick some ass. And it's pretty cool. I don't know, man. I know we're not supposed to like the Eagles around here, but I can't help but be a little, I mean, I'm kind of jacked for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, he's doing great, man. Miles Sanders, who would have known? Well, I'll jump into a guy. I'm going to start with the fun one. I think it's the fun one. I'm going to go with Jamaal Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Obviously, you know all about him, his years with the Packers, and now he's playing with the Lions. So he's the running back 11 this year. And that's just crushing it, man. If you consider, I guess his ADP was like 170, so that's around the 49th, 50th running back off the board. And to be an RB1 after being drafted that late, I mean, that's what dreams are made of. He's never had a season quite like this. He's already got 6 touchdowns under his belt. That's ties his best full seasons. So things are going great for him. And a lot of people say, is this because Swift not healthy? I'm sure it has a lot to do with it. He's coming out there. He's got pretty much all of the carries for this team so far, about 80%. But if you look at week 1, when everyone was healthy, he still had 42% of the rushing work. So this is by design. This is him proving who he is to the team. So he comes out and just kicks ass, and there he goes. He's sitting at 11th in rush attempts on the year at 77. He's got 15 red zone carries, and out of those 15, he's got 5 touchdowns in the red zone. So he's just kind of a monster. He had a bad game versus New England, but I still think that everything's going just fine for him. I've heard people in my trade chats call him a throwaway running back. I don't really think that's the case. So if you got a chance to jump on him after that down game, I think you might still be able to squeeze some juice out of this fruit, man. And if you doubt me, just go watch the Hard Knock speech. This is Hard Knock speech energy. I'm not gonna quote him again, but let the big dog eat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I was always surprised that Jamaal ended up on a kind of mediocre deal with the Lions. I always thought more teams would be into him. He's a hell of a running back, man. Aaron Jones stays getting like really good running backs as his backup, as the case with AJ Dillon right now. And Jamaal Williams is in the same vein. He could be a starter on a lot of teams. And like you said, he's proved it. Swift is gone, and he's done nothing but crush it, except New England game excluded. But
right. Which, is understandable. New England's got a history of shutting people down every now and again.
Yeah.
But he won't have the worst game of a rusher against New England this season. I can guarantee that. So.
So are you all wrapped up? Actually, let me make sure.
I'll
all right.
Use a code word, like I'll say a name of a fruit at the end.
Okay. My next guy, and this is going to be kind of a weird one, because after looking at it, I'm not as high on him, but I did want to throw it out. James Robinson is the RB16 on the year. It's not bad for a backup running back. That's a 23 spot jump from his ADP of 39, which is pretty impressive. Robinson, obviously, he's going to be up and down. Etienne is there. He's going to take over at some point, and it looks like that's already happening. He's kind of coming on stronger and stronger each week. He was the more efficient runner this past week, even though they got the same amount of carries. So that's really concerning, especially with Robinson only averaging 13 points per game right now. That's already a very low-end RB1, upside of RB2, basically. And I mean, as a Robinson owner, you're still excited, given his age and his contract situation and the fact that he has played relatively well up until about 2 weeks ago. He was playing really, really well. And I think this one's a bit scary because of the Etienne situation. It's definitely got me worrying about a trade I just made, but it's still impressive to see a guy jump up 23 spots in eight from their ADP. I'm really excited for James Robinson. I've always really liked James Robinson. I didn't understand why they drafted Etienne in the first place. I thought it was like a great undrafted running back story. I mean, it would have been cool, but I'm really excited for James Robinson. I hope he keeps crushing it. But I do think that he'll get probably closer to that 39 figure than the 16 figure that he's at now. Probably somewhere in the late 20s now. Just the numbers on Etienne coming alive are pretty staggering so far.
Yeah, I've got Etienne as my the downside, and it's going to echo a lot of the things you just said. And actually, some very interesting foreboding going on. So I'll be referencing back to a lot of the stuff you said there.
Okay,
I look forward to that. But I'm going to jump into Chicago's running back, Khalil Herbert. And this is a guy we're all pumped about. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Second year in the league. He's coming in here as the the RB51 in drafts. Like, that doesn't really make sense, but it means he pretty much wasn't getting picked up. But right now he's sitting at RB20, and it's pretty impressive for a guy who's the backup, to Demont, and just to keep it, in line with the Demont thing, we're gonna start calling him K-Herb. So. K-Herb over here
K-Herb.
Doing K-Herb things. And some of the things that really blow up about him are the red zone touches. He's got 13 of them. That's up there with Johnathan Taylor and Dameon Pierce, and he's getting 3 touchdowns on those. So, he's pretty active in the red zone and successful. He also is killing it with the yards per attempt at 5.9. That's 6th in the league as compared to Demont, who's 40th with a 3.8. But we got to talk simple truths when it comes to K-Herbs. This ain't his year, man. His 2 huge games were due to injury with Demont. David Montgomery comes back, and, K-Herb is just relegated to pretty much a non-factor situation. So that's cool with me. I think that he doesn't really have a chance to finish with that RB2 status that he currently is holding down. But I'd like you to keep the excitement red hot, but the expectations, keep them managed, keep them realistic. I think we know the writing's on the wall. Why would you bring Demont back next year or find a long-term contract when you've got K-Herbs here just crushing it? So I think the sky is the limit in 2023 when it comes to your Khalil Herberts. But I think, it might be a good time to take a look at him if he has a few more soft weeks, try to get him from someone who's maybe, doesn't have the knowledge of the contract situation going on up there, doesn't have faith in a team that's a little interesting. I can see now that I have a player from this team at every position we'll be discussing tonight. So should go Chicago. I guess this is the only thumbs up player from Chicago that I'll be talking about tonight. So we'll go from there, man. Apple.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you should go get Herbert. By now in Dynasty leagues, you should be paying attention to the contracts if you're not already. But try to take advantage of somebody that hasn't been, like you're saying. And I think going after Herbert makes sense. Is definitely a guy we were all kind of high on coming out of the draft. And then when he went to Chicago, it was a little weird. But next, a guy that I wasn't really high on coming out of the draft, but somebody on this podcast was. It's Rhamondre Stevenson. And then I wanted to do him for this segment before we knew that Damien Harris was going to be out for a while, and Stevenson's value just got even crazier. And I regret all the early season going back and forth I had about trading for him and trying to get him because his value is just going to skyrocket. A New England running back not named Harris or Stevenson has not taken a snap since week 2. So they haven't even been on the field with other people. And Stevenson's been out snapping Harris from week 2 to week 4, and then just didn't. Um, has been snapping him since week 2. Jeez. And now, like, so I don't see this scenario where Bill Belichick's going to bring in some guy who's immediately going to start competing for Stevenson's playing time at all, because he's not even letting those motherfuckers take snaps now. Like, why would he just all of a sudden come in and get 40 to 50% of the snaps? He's not. I think Stevenson's going to be getting 60 to 70% easy, at least for the next few weeks going forward. I mean, I hope that like a guy I like coming in, Pierre Strong, can kind of get some love now that Harris is gone, but I don't see him competing with Stevenson for anything other than PPR snaps. And so, yeah, I just think right now he was already having a hell of a year. He was already out snapping the guy who was the starter. And I just think look for the RB18 to keep improving on that ADP of 36 this year, because he's already halfway there. I think he'll end up closer to the top 10 by the end of the year, if not even in the top 10.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's beautiful,
now
man.
I want to cut back to like the rookie talk. When Christian was like, "This guy, you kidding me?"
I know, man. You got me back in those days to not pick him up. At the end of the third, I had to trade for him, you know. Good thing I did, though. I would have probably cut him by now, you know. You know how I do.
Yeah, hey, man.
Let him bounce. Let him bounce.
Dwayne Eskridge.
That's right. 2025 breakout season, Dwayne Eskridge. You heard it here 2 years ago first, though. All right. Well, let me get into my final good job. I got the green team and the red team. So it's my last green team running back. It's Josh Jacobs, man. And believe it or not, he was drafted relatively high compared to the other guys we're talking about. He was drafted to be the RB20. And that's pretty good. That's about 50th, you know, that puts you in round 4 or so. And now he's rocking the RB4 at the moment. And yeah, he wants the rock, man. I want the rock right now. I'm ready for it. Give it to me. And so he's killing it on this team. He's just absolutely destroying it. He's got a ton of red zone carries. You guys know I talk about this kind of things. He's got 16. You know, he's 4th in the league. He's up there with Kareem Hunt. And he's got a 17-game pace to get 61 targets. So he's really just he's just on a pace to kick ass, man. He's on that 1,500 rushing yard pace. And I don't know, man. The thing about him is we didn't know what was going to happen. He's caught 17 out of 18 targets. So he's just being efficient. He's just getting huge volume. And he's I don't know, he's the Alabama first-round running back or something. Who knew? Obviously, he's been a little squandered with the old Gruden times, but he's out there. He's looking sharp. I know we all just watched him in that Monday night game and probably a little scared of what he could do to the old Kansas City Chiefs. They ended up squeezing out of that one. You know, they beat the Raiders and the refs, so that was pretty impressive. But yeah, I want to reflect on how we got to RB20, you know, how we got to the doubt, how we traded him for, you know, Rondell Moore or whatever, you know, no offense, AJ. And you look at it and they took Zamir White in the 4th round, you know, who has 4 carries on the year. Good job, Zamir. Keep it up. And no 5th-year option, you know, because they didn't want to pay him as much as Saquon makes, which makes sense. And then you get the New England background and the coaching staff. I mean, there's just enough unknowns that we were sleeping on the guy, and we forgot that he is a Pro Bowl running back in the NFL. And he's playing like one. I would not be surprised if he doesn't make the Pro Bowl again this year. And the Raiders might be feeling a little dumb for not locking it down for a little long term. But you never know. You never know these days what's going to happen. But this guy's looking strong. It's a good story, I think, or whatever. He's looking like a man out there. So bananas.
Raiders might be feeling dumb for a few different reasons right now.
I
But
might, because they're the Raiders, number one.
So that's the good. We've got the good out of the way. So let's head to the bad. Little bit bigger names on this side, because it's always worse when those guys do worse. Najee Harris, drafted to be the RB9. Guy at the beginning of this year, I sat on this podcast and told everybody to go out and trade for because I thought he was being talked down, that all this work that he was going to get, that was going to get taken away from him. I didn't see that, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's exactly what's fucking happening. He's the RB27 right now. The biggest factor that I saw of what's going on is his targets are way down from where they were last year at this point. At this point last season, he had 39 targets. He has 15 right now. So just a massive drop. And I know Steelers aficionados will be like, oh, well, last season, Najee got 19 targets in week 3. Okay, well, take that away. He still has 20, which is 5 more than he has right now. So regardless, you're still not using him enough. And he's too much of a weapon in the passing game to just not use him. It doesn't make that much sense to me. And it kind of speaks to him as a whole, because if you look, his attempts per game are down from 18 last season to 14 this season. So he's not running the ball as much, and he's not catching the ball as much. And I don't know if that's the injury that he suffered at the beginning of the year, that's maybe they're kind of like playing it safe with him, not wanting him to get hurt, or if it's just the new look Pittsburgh offense and what they're trying to do. But either way, I don't love it, and it's looking really, really bad. If his production doesn't start to climb, he was always kind of a production or like a opportunity guy more than like I'm gonna break an 80-yard run and score. He's the guy that gets 5 yards and runs it 58,000 times and scores touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like, he's not that explosive. Well, he is explosive, but not like boom or busty, I guess. He needs to kind of plod and get all those points and score the PPR points. So if he's not doing that, it's going to be tough. And a lot of people, including myself, were higher on him than a lot of the top running backs right now and would have taken him in the draft. And yeah, that's gone sideways on us real quick.
Were you high on him or not, AJ?
I drafted him.
Yep.
And I thought they were all idiots for letting him fall to the 112. They were idiots.
I had him, and I was worried this was coming. But you're right. He was overutilized last year. He's definitely underutilized. I think that his future is somewhere between the two, but it's definitely a huge letdown. When you're a power back that can play like a scat back, like you have to make him the center of your offense, and I'll get into it a little bit later when we get in the wide receivers. But Pittsburgh's kind of weird. I don't think they haven't figured it out yet, but they still got time, Don't we all though? Figuring it out one day at a time. So I'm just gonna jump into my Jacksonville rebuttal while that's still fresh. But we got Travis Etienne here, and he's limping into his week 5 finish now at RB36, and he had some high hopes, going as RB19 ahead of Josh Jacobs in the draft. So yeah, I mean, Etienne hits the scene, established running back, already on the team, gets an injury, misses his whole rookie year. And now, and this is what I have to keep reminding myself, this is his first NFL season, right? So he starts out a little slow, whatever. We'll see what's happening. Oh, he's supposed to be a pass catcher. Now they got a whole slew of pass catchers in free agency. What's his role going to look like? Everyone's scared. I was a little scared. RB36, he might have got a few starts in the early part of the season that people really got disappointed by. But you got to look at it like my man Christian did. He's matching over the last 2 weeks. He's matching James Robinson's rushing attempts, and he's outdoing him on the pass catching side, the receiving side of things. So that's enough to make you wonder if his trajectory isn't going up. I do see him more as a RB19 at the end of the year. So, and I think a lot of my optimism comes from last week's game, Week 5 against Houston, where 10 carries apiece for Travis and for James. But Travis Etienne hit 71 yards, so a 7.1 average, which is amazing. Whereas James Robinson in the same game hits 27 yards. And it's not to say the opportunities were 1-for-1 or anything, but I mean, it just lets you know that there's a little bit of explosiveness, and in a 50-50 split, the more efficient back is going to probably get a heavier workload put his way. And so we're looking at a guy going into his 6th game as an NFL player. So if you think about that, like you're seeing Breece Hall heating up and these kind of situations, it gives you a lot of optimism, kind of makes you wonder where this is going to end up. And so, yeah, he's a huge disappointment. I can't believe that he was letting us down. He's there 17 spots lower than his ADP. It's disgusting. So, yeah, I mean, cherries.
All right. Yeah. I feel that one coming too. Sorry about that. And as an Robinson owner, I'm not stoked, but as a guy who would like to see Etienne come back from that injury in his rookie year, that would be a lot of fun. Etienne, whatever it is. All right. Johnathan Taylor, right? Obviously he missed last week, so that shot him down even more. But even before last week, he was the RB24, which is not what you want to see out of the guy you took with the number 1 overall pick, most likely. I tried to find out what was going on, and sadly I can't, which doesn't, that's worse. I really, really like being able to kind of see like, oh, like with Najee Harris, he's not getting the ball as much. It's not happening with Taylor. He has the exact same amount of targets as he did in Week 5 last season with 16. He's at 19.5 attempts per game last year at Week 5, or actually I think that was for the full year. And right now he's at 20.3. So he's getting the opportunity. I don't love that. The only stat that I could find that was majorly different, his yards before contact is the exact same as he finished with last season, 2.6 yards before contact. But his yards after contact per attempt is down by a lot. It was 2.8 last season. It's only 1.4 this season. So he's not creating a lot of yards after the contact. He's still getting hit relatively early on within 3 yards. The offensive line of the Colts, obviously, look at Matt Ryan. He's getting torn up. They're a little better on the run blocking, but still it's not great. And if Taylor doesn't turn this around and start kind of breaking more tackles and getting a lot more yards after contact, it's a little scary. Now, that being said, Johnathan Taylor was the RB24 going into Week 4 or going into Week 5 in 2021 as well. And he ended up as the RB1. So famously a guy that starts slow, but that was the only stat that I could find that was majorly different. And that's a proficiency stat more than like they're not using him enough. It's like he's actively just not getting it done at the level that he was last year, according to this. Now, there's a lot that goes into it. Could be just more gang tackles, more stacked boxes, less room to move. Not blaming Johnathan Taylor here, but that's a disheartening stat to see.
Yeah, that whole offense is very inefficient, and ironically, it felt like the whole team missed Week 5 despite the victory.
Yeah,
but that's kind of when you talk about the usage and the yards before contact, you look at that O line, and it's obviously struggling compared to last year. But you're saying, the yards before contact are similar, and maybe. And you want to say, hey, well, maybe the passing game was more dynamic last year. Like, that's not really the case. Can't be. We always look at that team as devoid of talent, really. When you talk about Paris Campbell wasn't there and T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, and then Carson Wentz. It's like, surely it's got to be a little bit better now. But it's just.
I don't know, man. I think Colts fans might be longingly looking at Carson Wentz right now over Matt Ryan, which I don't think I ever would have said.
I don't think that.
But
That's desperation talking.
That's fair.
So maybe the Colts will do what they should have done 5 years ago and just tank.
Draft. Oh yeah.
So
Draft
they can-
quarterback though.
Yeah,
Just
well,
one
yeah.
even.
Well, I
Just
mean,
one.
like, don't barely miss the playoffs so that you can't draft a quarterback. You know.
Well, even then, take a stab at a guy. Fucking Desmond Ritter, Malik Willis, Matt Corral. All these dudes are in there in the second, third, fourth round. Sam Howell. Like, take fucking one of them. Like just to see. I don't know. What if Matt Ryan sucks?
That's
Well,
true.
now you're living it, and you got Nick Foles as your backup. So
Yeah, could have had Carson Strong.
could have. Now he probably wouldn't have been any good, but at least you tried with a young
He's
kid.
probably, yeah. I think he's been cut. He's probably still available to them if they're
That's
so
fair, I guess.
interested. But yeah, the Colts, man. I'm gonna gallop right past that one.
Alec
Woo!
Pierce though,
Dude,
16 points.
Getting with it, man. It's funny. There's a lot of reoccurring themes on this episode. I think it's going to make it a really tight-knit situation. But
Let's go.
let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Also 4-1. Is that true? How? So you got Zeke Elliot, man. Big man Zeke. Old man Zeke. The old workhorse himself. He's chilling right at the RB 37 on your scorecards, but he was RB 16 on your cheat sheet. So that's a little disappointing if you ask me. This is all despite being 10th most carries in the league with 81. Let you know that puts him on a 275 touch pace, which exceeds his past few years. So don't come at me with the volume ain't there. Tony Pollard's still in the work, because that's just not true. Mr. Pollard has 44 touches. So it is not quite the same thing, and neither of them are really being good pass catching running backs by my standards. So it's hard to be mad about the usage. One thing to be mad about, though, is he's only scored one time, and that's kind of been the Zeke thing. And so what are you upset about? What's going on? How do we do this? What's going to happen? Okay, well, the Cowboys only have 8 offensive touchdowns. So, and one of those was a fumble recovered in the end zone. So that's cool. That's 26th place, a big tie for 26th place, with only Denver, Indianapolis, and Pittsburgh doing worse than them. So you're not going to be a huge fantasy asset if your team isn't scoring points. I mean, it's great that the defense is keeping them in games and they're making it work, but your quarterback, is injured. Dak Prescott, sure, they're winning, but it's not the dynamic offense we know. The O-line that has made Zeke a household name, it's kind of been, scattered. So they're kind of working through all that. So I don't know. I don't know if he's cooked, or if he's too fat, if he's too old, or if that's just what people are saying about me. But I don't think it's Tony Pollard's fault. I think that he is a little more efficient, 5.6 yards per carry versus the 3.8 for Zeke. But man, I think that there's still time for Zeke to turn this around. And I know I've said this before, but if they get their pass catchers back, they get Dak Prescott back, they get the tempo of that offense back, then I think the opportunity for Zeke to get in there and score some goal line opportunities, which he's still getting when they are in the area. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. So figs.
Well, I hope so. This is the first year I ever took Elliott, and I think he heard, because he's
Someone told him.
trying to piss me off, I think. Speaking of another guy who I finally admitted was good and now sucks, James Conner, drafted as the RB15. He's currently doubling that at the RB30. This one was glaringly obvious what the issue was. He's not scoring touchdowns. At this point, last season, he had 5 touchdowns already. He's sitting at 1 right now. That's not going to get it done for a guy that's never topped 1,000 yards in his career. His whole thing is that he needs touchdowns to survive. He gets into the end zone and he's been crazy efficient at doing it, and he's just not right now. So he's not going to do it with yards. He's not going to necessarily do it through the air consistently enough for you to rely on it. And this is the other thing, and I don't think this is his fault. I think it's the Cardinals just not being very good on offense right now. But last season, James Conner had 41 carries inside the 20. This year, he's only at 8 so far. And if he continues at this rate, he'll only end with 27 carries inside the 20-yard line. For a guy who had, was it 16 touchdowns last year, and that's what carried him to a top 10 fantasy finish. Like, this guy needs Arizona to be more efficient, and if they can't start getting into scoring position more and don't start giving him the ball, this season could go pretty badly for James Conner. And honestly, I think it will. And I don't think it's his fault. I just don't believe in the Cardinals right now. Their offense is in shambles to me. I mean, they're starting to improve, and obviously they get Hopkins back, but I'm just not a believer in this team, and I don't really see it kind of turning around. Not quick enough for Conner.
Yeah, you forget about the touchdowns. It's that's the truth, man. But to be honest with you, the whole division is kind of tough to watch. If I'm telling you about what I've seen on the field. And I think a principal evidence in that case is got to be Cam Akers. For Hook. He was going at the RB18, ahead of Josh Jacobs, ahead of Zeke, right behind Zeke. But man, this is just rough for me. I don't know what to say about the Rams, besides they're obviously hungover from a Super Bowl victory, and they have no offensive identity, and there's some turnover at the O-line. So all that combined with this dude just tore his Achilles tendon. So his Achilles got busted up, and now he's putting down 3.0 yards per carry, as the kids say. And the efficiency is awful. And it's kind of a sad deal. Everyone looks a little lost and confused on this team, except for Cooper Kupp, who is still managing to be, God's gift to football in Las Vegas, or in Los Angeles, sorry. But I'm a little puzzled by the usage share with Henderson. It would appear to me that Henderson was doing a pretty good job, but that amounted to him getting 0 carries last week, and that doesn't really make sense to me when you're looking at Akers just had 2.5 yards per carry. Like that wouldn't warrant someone else to give it a try a little bit.
But it's an illusion. You can't know what's going on with the Rams offense. That's why they're so smart and why they're ranked 32nd in every major rushing category.
Yep. Hey, if you wear your khakis too tight, it may restrict the flow of blood to your brain. Straight up. You don't just ask my friend Sean. He knows all about it. So I think if something clicks, it clicks. But I think it's kind of a lost season. RB 56. Got to be better than that. Maybe eventually. Kind of feels like keeping Sony Michel would have been a really smart move.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at on Akers. Grapes.
So all right, well, that wraps up the running backs. So we're gonna move more into your territory here, Dan.
Oh, no.
But we're going into the wide receivers. So let's get our feelings up again after being down in the dumps for so long. Let's go with the green side of the scale. My first guy I want to shout out, Jacoby Meyers, drafted in the 15th round in a lot of leagues,
Nice.
as the wide receiver 59. He's up 20 spots ahead of that right now, 39. But I wanted to point out him, not because he's at 39. He missed 2 games and he's at 39. He's averaging almost 18 points per game this season. So if he played those 2 games he missed and kept that average, he'd be ranked 7th right now. He's averaging 9 targets per game. The guy just gets it done and nobody notices week in and week out. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to see if you guys agree with me. I feel like Jacoby Meyers has the chance to be this generation's Brandon Cooks. Like the guy that just goes out, gets targets, gets it done, and then always is drafted at the back half of fantasy drafts, and no one can really quite figure out why.
I'll give that to you. I like that a lot.
That was it.
Okay.
That was a quick one. I just want to shout him out because he just does it. Like he not flashy, but just consistent and just comes out there and he'll get it done for you as your wide receiver too. And you'll be super happy, especially if he ends up ranked 7th.
Yeah, man. Especially quietly, Mac Jones is tied for 5th most pass attempts at 20+ yards right now.
Ooh.
And that's creeping up right there into Jacoby Meyers' pocket, man. And you're right. That's pretty impressive. It's not a sexy name, but like in fantasy, you can't get caught up on the names. Otherwise, you'd be like, I don't know, like a Schmeagle situation. I don't understand. But anyway, I'm going to jump into some old news, good news, sad news, glad news with my buddy Devin Duvernay.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, he was a long shot Longhorn. And the bright stars of Hollywood were keeping him down, but now that he's got the opportunity, he's definitely kicking ass. I don't have an ADP for this guy. He's a wide receiver 24 now. I just wasn't being drafted. He's got 17 catches on 20 targets, and he's got 3 touchdowns. So it's just clean, man.
Efficient.
It is what it is. We probably should have seen this coming, or maybe we did and just didn't act on it. But this offense has been needing a pass catcher even when Hollywood Brown was there. Even last year we were talking about, Sammy Watkins more than we should have been, just because, Bateman was a little bit banged up and is still banged up a little bit. And then, with Hollywood Brown leaving town, it's an insane amount of opportunity for the next guy up in the wide receiver room. And sure, we all thought maybe it was going to be Tylan Wallace or Prochet. A lot of us thought, hey, maybe even Isaiah Likely can step in after the preseason he had. And a lot of us just overlooked Devin Duvernay. And he gets it done in pretty much all segments of the game. He looks great on special teams as well. He's getting a couple of carries. He didn't have the sexiest game in the world stat-wise last Sunday. But if you watched the game, you saw Devin Duvernay. He was very active in Rashad Bateman's absence. And I think he's making a pretty big name for himself. And definitely pumped about it. His card has been on my keyboard at work for like 2 years. Though I did cut him after drafting him in the 3rd round in 2020. But all's well that ends well. And I'm happy for the guy, and it's pretty cool if you ask me. Go for it.
I was going to see what the next fruit was.
I can keep going, but
yeah, Duvernay, another guy that's made me look silly this season. I think it was 4 weeks ago, I sat here and said that Duvernay is not the guy to get in the Ravens offense, and that Isaiah Likely was, and that has not worked out so far. But yeah, it's good to see a guy got a lot of pop on this podcast. It's good to see him kind of start to take off. My guy, I got to shout out an oldie but a goodie here. Tyler Lockett is the wide receiver 8 right now, which is bananas when he was coming into the season with Geno Smith. But we know what Geno's doing too. He was drafted as the wide receiver 38 around the 7th round. That's kind of a steal when you think about it for a guy whose worst fantasy finish in the last 4 seasons was 17th. And it kind of speaks to this, like, okay, yeah, like the quarterback situation maybe declining, which, by the way, looks like maybe it was actually an improvement. But like some of these guys, like maybe just take the chance on them, especially when they start to fall. Lockett has 40 targets this season. That's 5 more than he had going into week 6 last season. He's only got 3 less than DK Metcalf, so there's not some huge disparity in targets there. Another thing that's wild to me, Lockett's always kind of been this deep threat guy. His yards per reception is down from 16.1 last season to 12.7, which is crazy to me too. And then his yak per reception is also down. So he's not like breaking these crazy plays. He's not going deep. He's got an 80% catch rate right now and a high volume of targets, and that's helping him break into the top 10 in PPR leagues. In non-PPR leagues, he falls all the way down to 13th. So a 5-point drop for him when all those other receivers are also losing their PPR points. He's still declining 5 spots. But hey, you don't care as long as you're in a PPR or even a half PPR league. So let's keep targeting Lockett. Like, even though we're kind of taking the top off his game right now with Geno, and then, hey, if they finally develop and if Kenneth Walker comes along, they got more of a play action game to respect, and then they start bombing it deep. Who knows with Lockett? But I just thought it was pretty impressive to come out and do what he's doing with that whole situation in Seattle.
Yeah, another thing that I have reoccurring in some of my research here is what you're talking about. Like, the depth of target is low. He's just kind of catching the short ball and keeping the game moving. And, as many all-stars, we all know the all-star wide receivers. We know the names. They're out there scoring touchdowns and being named Stephon. But we can't all be named after our mother, Stephanie. But that's all good with that. And I see that shit happening all over the place. You got these guys, they're not the R or the WR, the wide receiver ones, but the guys in the wide receiver 2 category don't necessarily have the superstar quarterbacks. They're the guys that are getting the first downs, that are moving the sticks and just getting these short passes and making stuff happen. And, the one guy I see doing that big time is Curtis Samuel, man. So he was a waiver wire pickup pretty much and is now sitting at the wide receiver 16. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. He was drafted outside of the top 70 wide receivers. So that tells you pretty much where he's at. And he's got 32 catches this year out of, I think it was 45 targets, and that's like a 71% catch rate. But like I was just saying, 27 of his 32 catches have been behind the line of scrimmage or within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So he's not doing the down the field big time stuff. He's not out there scoring a ton of touchdowns. He does have 2, which is pretty decent for week 5 wide receiver game. But I'm just saying, like, he's just being targeted at a high rate. He's got a high catch rate, and he's just out there playing football. It's incredible. There's nothing sexy about it, but he's the wide receiver 16 playing with the quarterback that is Carson Wentz. So pick that up and rearrange it, man. Like, fuck, that wasn't in your crystal ball, was it?
No, not at all. I thought Curtis Samuel was definitely a guy that was getting a little overhyped. Had been up until this point. This is kind of the first time he's really gone off. And it's cool to see. I hate it as a Terry McLaurin owner in 2 leagues, but it's cool to see Curtis Samuel do his thing. Another guy that is cool to see do his thing that you probably got undrafted or very, very late in the draft. Corey Davis, ADP of 99 for the receivers. He's up 69 spots right now. Nice. At wide receiver 30. He's tied for second on the team in targets behind Garrett Wilson with Elijah Moore and Tyler Conklin. Just like with me and you guys were saying at the beginning of this year, Davis is on the field all the time, which is going to give him opportunities on a frisky Jets team. And it It worked exactly kind of what we thought. Davis has never been beneath 74% snap share since week 2. He's beaten out Garrett Wilson in every snap or snap category every week but week 4. So he's out snapping Garrett Wilson on a consistent basis, even though he's not getting the targets. If the Jets keep improving and stay a little frisky, I think Davis could end up being like a confident flex starter for you. He's leading the team in yards right now. He's in danger of becoming a bit of a boomer bust guy with his like the amount of targets he's getting and the amount of yards he's getting. He's at 30 targets, like 16 yards per reception right now. But if he can keep that up, it'd be really impressive. But yeah, Corey Davis, like we were saying, a sneaky value that you could definitely add to your roster relatively cheap. And I think you could still get him relatively cheaply. And I think he's going to have a decent year. I think he hangs in the 20s at wide receiver this season. And that would be an absolute steal.
Hell yeah. Fucking love Corey Davis, man. And I don't know why. But it's good. It makes me so happy to hear you say all these things. But yeah, all right, okay. Let me get in here. Let me do my thing. I'm going to talk about Christian Kirk a little bit, huh?
Oh,
how about that? Now, I know these are some guys that come up out of the gutter, and now, I don't know what you do after that. You're on Front Street with Curtis Samuel and Devin Duvernay, so it's a little bit of a different story for a guy that's making upwards of $18 million a year and is shaking up that whole market. People were saying, hey, what the hell are you guys doing paying this guy this much money? We're drafting him as the wide receiver 41. So what the hell are you guys doing? They must have seen something in him, because now he's wide receiver 20. And ironically, the only guys doing better than him so far this year are Tyler Lockett, Curtis Samuel, and Cortland Sutton. Those are the only 3 guys doing better than him that aren't on a rookie deal or making more money per year than him. So it looks like he's kind of earning his keep. How's that $15.5 million a year for Allen Robinson treating anybody? Straight up. So don't come at me telling me Christian Kirk broke the wide receiver market when he just set himself up to get paid for what he's already doing, because that's what he is doing. He's taken off where he left off last year in Arizona with the breakout year. He's actually on a pace to have more targets and less catches than he did last year. Maybe there's a reason for that. But right now he's at 16.1 yards per catch, which is pretty badass. He's in the top 10 area there. And it's 6.2 yards after the catch. So he's actually making quite a bit happen. That's a big number for him. And just like I was saying with Curtis Samuel, 15 of his 21 catches are within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So these security blankets for these kind of shitty quarterbacks is really hitting that fantasy gold mine right now. And so if you look at that, the sustainability of it, I mean, unless Trevor Lawrence gets better, Christian Kirk's going to be getting these easy catches. And if he does get better, then, Christian Kirk's going to start turning up the heat elsewhere on the field. So maybe we get our first Trevor Lawrence 300-yard game coming up sometime.
That'd be cool.
Is that too much to ask? I don't know what to say. That's a big ask. We'll let it be. But he's got 3 touchdowns on the year. So Christian Kirk's making a lot happen with not the most support from his quarterback, especially when you look at that. The way that run game hit the ground running with James Conner, and now with Travis Etienne getting in the mix, it's like, is there much meat on the bone for Christian Kirk? And he's over there gnawing, eating the marrow, man. He's getting it for all it's worth. So, yeah, man.
Hell of a season so far. Super hyped about that. I like Kirk. I know you've been a huge fan of Kirk for a while now. But let's get back into the red. Can't have too much optimism here. I am going to keep it on the New York Jets, though, and I'm going to go Elijah Moore. Preseason hype fucked us again, huh? The ADP of 36. He's sitting at 64 right now. Not awesome. No touchdowns is really what's hurting him here. And he's competing. Well, the guy during preseason was supposed to be the guy in New York, right? Oh, Elijah Moore's going to break out. He's the number one here. Yada yada yada. Forget about Garrett Wilson. Da 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 da. Elijah Moore's tied for the same amount of targets as Corey Davis and Tyler Conklin.
Wow.
It's severely hampering him to be competing with those guys. And Garrett Wilson is leading that thing. The other area he's really not getting targets, the red zone. 3 targets in the red zone for Elijah Moore. That's not going to help, not in a fantasy perspective. That's as many as Demarcus Robinson and Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yikes.
That's not what you want. Luckily for Moore, though, I do think the season is salvageable. Even if he keeps at this target rate, he's still projected to get almost 99 targets. So as long as he can increase that efficiency, score a little bit, let's get him involved in the red zone a little more and get him some touchdowns there and a little more after the catch. He's not doing a ton. He's kind of just similar to Tyler Lockett. He's just catching the ball and not really going anywhere with it. However, he's not catching it at the rate that Lockett is catching it. So it's not benefiting in the same way. So if we can kind of increase Moore's efficiency a little bit, I still have hopes for him, but right now it's not looking good.
So you're saying you need more from Moore. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of mouths to feed on that offense all of a sudden. But the same could be said for Pittsburgh Steelers, you know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
So, a guy I was wrong about, a little bit of Claypool, wide receiver 69 on the year.
Nice.
With a draft pick of 45. So apparently people knew, and I just was a little optimistic because, I think contested catch in the end zone, I think, down the field, kind of breakaway, a little physicality, and maybe score some touchdowns or whatever. But when you're on the, one of the bottom 3 scoring teams on the NFL, opportunities for that kind of skill set aren't really showcased. And furthermore, you talk about Najee Harris not getting the targets that he ought to be. Well, we're looking at a 3-way tie here, basically right at the 30 target mark with Pickens, Claypool, and Freiermuth. And it kind of makes you wonder if this team's still kind of figuring it out. And they obviously are, when they wheel out Mitchell Trubisky and then now Pickett's in there. So we'll see what's going on. I think there's a little bit of hope for Claypool, but I think he also has a chance to miss out. He might be the short man on the stick on that one because you got 5 comparable guys that might be as good or better that have a little more juice going than him right now. So, he's being used heavily in the slot, and I guess that's okay. But the problem with a slot receiver is when everyone on your team except for Pickens has a dot of under 12 yards, it kind of really dilutes your area of the field to catch the ball. So he's not able to specialize in any way to set himself apart from anybody or to really use the skill set or really gain the trust of his quarterback. So, it is what it is with Chase Claypool. I do think he still has a good career ahead of him, but man, he was a guy that I was kind of considering almost a sleeper of sorts, but he's barely scratching the 50% catch rate, so he's not really doing himself a ton of favors in that department. We'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can move straight into another guy who's barely scratching the 50% rate. But before that, I guess, Claypool, a bit disappointing. I think I was more in the camp that he would be the odd man out, so I kind of see that just happening, especially now that Pickett is in. But we'll see. I like Claypool. I hope that it turns around for him, but I'm not vibing it. Jerry Judy, though. Let's talk about Jerry Judy. because this is a guy who I've recently had to have a bit of a reality check on. Taylor, my girlfriend, and Danny, friend of the show, I was talking to them about some football the other day and brought up Jerry Judy, and I think I realized that I maybe was a little higher on Jerry Judy than the rest of the world. So I had to take their advice and look inward and see if that was a mistake by me, and it's starting to look like it might be. ADP of 26, currently 43. This is another example of buying into hype without seeing the actual product. The Broncos offense right now just looks absolutely terrible. Everybody's watch it. We're being forced to watch it with our eyes taped open every prime time. And it's just not working. And it's a lot of it has to do with Russell Wilson. A lot of it has to do with the coach. Some of it has to do with the receivers. It's just nobody's doing well right now in Denver. And then Judy is being absolutely dominated in the target share by Courtland Sutton. 46 to 29 targets is not what you want to see from Jerry Judy, a guy that like was a first round pick, an early first round pick. You want to see him come out and start dominating now that he has a quarterback. And not only does he only have 29 targets, his catch percentage is abysmal. It's 48.3%. That's not going to get it done. And it's either Wilson way overthrowing him or not getting it to him. His that freaking catchable target rate that we were talking about for Judy for the past 2 seasons has actually gotten worse by a couple points this season. Not better. It's like 79 to 80 or whatever it was. So it's just close, but Russell Wilson's supposed to improve that. And so it seems like even if Russell Wilson finally does get him the ball, Judy drops it. He only has 2 drops on the season, but it feels like that number should be higher after watching the Broncos, but maybe that's just because it's been so painful. But yeah, the Judy experiment so far is not really going to plan.
Yeah, that sucks, man. You had a come to Judy moment, huh?
I had to. Yeah.
There's a lot of trains that got wrecked in Denver this year, man. I'm sorry you were on one of them.
Sucks.
But if you want to talk about a
On a couple
dumpster
of
fire, though, yeah, let's keep the gas rolling on this next dumpster fire. I'm going with Mooney, aka where the hell Darnell, because this dude was drafted at 30th of the position, and now he's at 76. So, you know, his target rate right now is about 50% that of 2021, and he has 10 catches on 20 targets in the end of week 5. And if math works properly, that is a 34 catch season.
Sick.
So that's going to be awesome. Impressive. The most impressive part about the Chicago Bears is the team is averaging less than 10 catches a game. Less than 10 catches a game. Yeah, I don't know how to fix it. I'm just going to leave that one stone fruit. Peaches.
That's fair. Cooper Kupp has more catches than the entire Bears offense.
That's beautiful.
That's wild. All right. Well, we'll move on from that dumpster fire and at least one with some hope, but one that is hurting right now. Jamar Chase. I said it. I stone-faced said it on this podcast that I thought he would have a better season than Justin Jefferson, and that is not going very well right now. The major reason I thought that is that I did believe in the Bengals offensive line. I said it on our whatever episode we did it where I talked about the Bengals offensive line, that some people weren't really buying into it, didn't think it was going to work, and I was in the camp that it would, and it fucking hasn't. 18 sacks would have been in the league if not for crazy sack games for the Rams and the Colts recently, putting them up to 21. Bengals are not getting it done. They're not protecting Joe Burrow. The other thing is defenses have put an absolute cap on Jamar Chase so far this season. His average depth of target is down from 12.6 to 8.5. His yards after the catch per reception is down from 8 to 4.7. His yards per reception is down from 18 to 10.7. It's It's crazy. Defenses have just absolutely capped Jamar Chase. They're not letting him escape. They're not letting him go deep. Even if he is going deep, Joe Burrow doesn't have the time to hit him deep. And it seems like defenses have respect Chase's deep ability so much that they've found a way to stop it. And Zach Taylor hasn't pivoted it out and figured out a way to get him more involved. There was a pretty cool picture today of the route trees of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson from the past week, and you could basically trace a line on all Jamar's. It looked the same the whole time, and Justin Jefferson's going all over the field. Let's get this guy more involved. It's not working so far. Maybe he doesn't need to go bomb it down every fucking play. Let's just get him open and get the ball in his hands because he's a dynamic playmaker. I obviously have high hopes that this will end up working. He's too good for it to not. But as a guy that I was saying was going to be better than Justin Jefferson, and a lot of people took him in the first round. If you got him in the second, if you got him in the second, you were jumping for joy, and he's not been it so far.
Yeah, lazy route runner is what I heard you say. But no, man, it's like Zach Taylor got the toy he wanted for Christmas. Some assembly required. He dumped all the best fucking pieces on the floor and threw the instructions away. So good luck putting that together. It's going to be just fine. An elite offensive line not built through time and draft and togetherness takes a little bit of time. So give them some. I think they'll be all right. We'll see what happens. But someone I don't know if he'll be all right is my best friend, Terry McLaurin. Uncle Terry, we call him in my house. So real quick, this guy's wide receiver 31. Hey, that's not bad. Yeah, well, he was drafted the wide receiver 14. That's a fringe wide receiver 1. Okay? Not really what you paid for. It's not like Jamar Chase level disappointments, but it's right there. So 17.2 yards per catch. Okay, that's amazing, right? Yeah, he's on the field. He's getting a pretty good workload. It's just what it is, man. What am I going to tell you that you haven't already heard me say? He's got Carson Wentz as his quarterback who can't throw the ball 17.2 yards, okay? So it's not going to happen for him. That's pretty much the whole thing. It's over. Everything's over. It's over. No, I'm just joking. Actually, Carson Wentz has the second most 20-plus yard pass completions in the league. So he just can't really figure it out. I don't know what's going on with Terry. Curtis Samuel's coming in, mopping up all the easy work. Terry's out there distracting defenses. And somehow he's still leading this team in receiving yards, despite a 13-catch deficit, 19 compared to 32 of Curtis Samuel. So he's still a good player. He's still an amazing guy. He's still Uncle Terry in our houses and our hearts. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And I hope that Washington can do what they need to do, what the Colts need to do, and just lose. Just keep losing. Just keep losing. Don't even with this shit. Keep losing. Because if Terry McLaurin ever gets a real quarterback, holy shit. You know what I mean? It's going to be amazing. So hold out hope. He might not be your guy, but he's actually been fairly consistent as a subpar wide receiver 1 for your team or whatever you want to call him. He's hitting the double digits more weeks than not. It's not boomer bust. It's just boomer meh. It's just meh. It's just meh. So he had a 3.5 point game, but other than that, he's upwards of 12 to 16, and I think he's got a lot of momentum going. The targets are pretty great, a lot better than Darnell Mooney. So that's one thing you can look forward to. He's right there at the Chase Claypool level of targets. No shit, fuck. All right, all right. Fuck these wide receivers, man.
Yeah, let's talk about some tight ends, and let's go back to the green team. And another green team. Been talking about the Jets a lot today. Let's keep it rolling. Tyler Conklin is on pace for 102 targets this season. He's in line for his most productive season yet. He's sharing 15% of the target share. As I've said twice already, he's tied with Corey Davis and Elijah Moore for targets. He was drafted as the tight end 40, and he's the tight end 12 right now. You guys called this, I remember. I was surprised you didn't actually pick him, Dan, to talk about. But yeah, he's having a hell of a season. Seems like the Jets are trusting him. CJ Uzama, by the way, 3 targets on the season. So
Nice. Yeah, I could have talked about him. I should have talked about him. We probably should have actually laid out what teams we were talking about. We could have canvassed a little more of the league,
yeah,
perhaps.
probably.
But no, that's cool. It's good to see. Like I said, ton of mouths to feed up there. It's been efficient. You know, we all know Flacco was really slanging a lot of attempts out there. So a lot of people got fed and looked pretty cool for a while. But now it's Brees time, baby. So get out the way. I'm gonna roll into Tyler Higbee. You know, one of the bright spots on the Rams offense.
Rams.
Yeah. So he was drafted to be the tight end 15 and has come up to the 6th level. So that's actually a pretty good little catapult there when you're talking about a guy, you know, that was definitely being drafted, but not with any hopes. But he's rocking a 25% target share of the Rams offense. So that's pretty impressive. He's got 48 targets, 6 of them in the red zone. And as I've said a couple million times, he's like one of the only 2 good things going on with this offense, the other being Cooper Kupp. But I think that averaging 9.6 targets a game is not sustainable for him. That's a heartbreaker to say, but I do think it's going to level out once Van Jefferson gets healthy and starts taking, 4 to 8 targets a game. And then there's got to be some kind of improvement between the combination of Allen Robinson and Matthew Stafford. Like somewhere in that equilibrium, one of those 2 has to take a step in the right direction. And that's probably going to equal a little more dynamic offense, maybe less of the safety blanket, for lack of a better cliche, with the Higbee deal. Plums.
Jesus. Yeah, Higbee's been a bright spot. I had to talk myself out of trading him for something that probably wasn't worth it.
I wish I could have got that trade off last night. Man, I tried to get a bunch of tight ends last night.
Sorry, man.
It's all good.
Speaking of tight ends that are doing good, Hayden Hurst. Hey, Hayden Hurst, drafted as the tight end 23.
Hey.
Found himself a nice little role in Cincinnati so far. He's the tight end 11 right now. He's only 3 targets away from matching his total targets from last season. So, he's already going to have a better season than that. He's tied for 2nd on the team in targets with T. Higgins. Cincinnati's offense has been underwhelming, but if they start to cook a little bit and kind of start to figure this out, my only fear is that if they start to figure it out, Hayden Hurst might get a little lost. But if he doesn't and he kind of keeps earning this little role, he'd be a fine backup tight end that you could throw in if you get an injury or on a bye week, and he can get you 10 points. I think he ends up kind of in this area, the 12 to 15 tight end area. So nothing to write home about necessarily, but as a guy you got pretty late in drafts, hey, can't really knock it. I like the consistency out of him.
Heck yeah. Yeah, kind of what you're saying. If they establish a more dynamic team, it's kind of what I say about the Higbee thing. Like, he could be the odd man out when everyone else starts to do a little bit better. But, hey, talk about the odd man in. Taysom Hill, baby. We're talking tight ends right now. You know it. Guess he was drafted as the tight end 25. Not a tight end. Currently the tight end 7, Taysom Hill. Mm-hmm. You guys know the story. Christian, you might have missed this, but I've done a few Taysom Hill rants in my day. If you don't know this, he's from Idaho. I believe he's from Pocatello, and he is named after a park in his hometown.
Huh.
Now, can you imagine being the kid that was named after a park in your hometown? It'd be like being named Bircham in Lawrence. Oh, like the park. It'd be fucking brutal. So this guy grew up with that, graduates high school, and goes to Australia on his Mormon missions, and then goes to BYU as like a 22-year-old freshman and proceeds to play quarterback for BYU. He peaks as a 1,300-yard rushing season with 2,900 passing yards, and that's 19 touchdowns through the air, 10 touchdowns on the ground that season, and he just comes out and becomes a top-notch tight end, right? Because he had zero receiving yards in all 5 years of college at BYU. So what up? Whatever, man. 5 touchdowns in 5 weeks. Checks all the boxes. He's got my starting tight end spot. What up? Muskmelon.
Oh, fuck off, Taysom Hill. So let's go into the red, and I think we're just gonna throw this one out there. Just Kyle Pitts, obviously, is the biggest bust of the year so far. No, I don't think anybody can really explain what's going on with that one, and it seemed a bit like low-hanging fruit, so we wanted to go to other places, but we're not stupid. We do know that Kyle Pitts is doing bad. But another guy who's doing bad, who was taken pretty high, Darren Waller, ADP of 5. He's the tight end 14 right now. My thing here is I don't get it. The fuck does Matt Collins have more targets than Darren Waller? Like, how the fuck does that happen?
Mac Hollins only drops touchdowns.
Like, you just paid Darren Waller $51 million over 3 seasons.
That's Josh Jacobs' long-term contract money. Interesting. Okay.
Like, and yet Mac Hollins is going to out-target him. Like, this guy should be your number 2 behind Devontae no matter what. It doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, he just got hurt, and, that's kind of where Mac Hollins took over because he didn't really play the last game, yada, yada, yada. I hear you. But they shouldn't have been that fucking close to begin with. And yeah, I just don't get it. This should work. I haven't been super invested in Waller as much as you have, so maybe you've seen something. But for me, it's just like he's not being used.
As soon as Hunter Renfrow got a foothold on that offense, Waller was out, basically, is what I saw.
Okay.
So,
well,
that was the whole thing.
Shit.
It's been like, it's not just this year. It's been 2 years coming, in my opinion.
Well, then everybody should have synced it.
I thought, I was trying to get out from under him. And then when he got the contract, I got optimistic again, and that was a mistake. So I should have kept my other tight end instead of trading him, and that was Cole Kmet, And I guess that kind of worked out for me. He is currently the tight end 34 after being drafted with a lot of draft love at the tight end 12. So that hurt, man. It hurts me, and it hurts you, and it hurts everybody. To start a season, a guy that was drafted to be a tight end 1 and goes 2 catchless games to start it out. I've been there, man, and the double goose egg, that's some permanent damage. There are people who will never touch Cole Kmet again for the rest of his playing career because of how this season started. And another thing that's really sad about it is that there's nobody else really challenging him for that role. On the Chicago Bears, we already talked about how there's only 10 catches per game going on down there. So there's a chance that nobody there is worth touching unless they're a running back. And that's cool. But it should be noted that 4 out of 5 games to start the year last year for him were under 5 points. So there's still hope, but we all remember how we were like, oh yeah, Cole Kmet could have really been a great tight end if he had caught a single touchdown last year. So hold your optimism in a place where you can't find it after you've had a few drinks because you might feel like burning it. Cole, Kmet, what are you going to do? Passion fruit.
What are you gonna do? Hunter Henry also come back to us, my dog. Like ADP of 14, he's sitting at 36 right now. That's tough. I'm sorry, didn't you just say Cole Kmet was what 30,
32 or 34.
32,
34.
34, and he had 2-0 games?
Yeah.
Hunter Henry's at 36. Fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
You're not obviously you didn't spend a huge pick on Hunter Henry, so this is a bit of a like whatever one. It just didn't make sense. Through 5 weeks last season, Henry had 26 targets. He's only got 14 right now. He's at 0 touchdowns and less than 100 yards, which is hugely disappointing for a guy who had 603 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. Henry only has 3 targets inside the red zone, and he was number 2 in the league last season in the red zone for tight ends with 18. This is just it's just been bad. I don't really know what's going on in New England or as far as what exactly the deal is and why they're just kind of falling out of favor with Hunter Henry. But if you took him late, hoping to get or later, hoping to get like a sneaky backup tight end that you could flex into a starter sometimes, that's just not happening right now. And I don't really see it getting much better, to be honest.
Yeah, that was just kind of a weird deal where they're like, we'll win by taking all the tight end talent last year. And it's clearly blown up in their faces, but they didn't expect to have a prolific passing offense. I think they want to keep it on the ground and do Gronk type stuff. And turns out they didn't have to the way Mac Jones is playing and Jacoby Meyers hooking up. So that's fucking sweet. But when opportunity knocks, you got to answer the door, my friend. So you lighten up the draft with your big Dawson Knox pick at tight end 10, and then all of a sudden he comes in tight end 27, and that's just coins down the wishing well, man. You should have bought a stick of gum. You would have had something to chew on. Now you're just empty-handed. So missing games is to be expected at this point from Dawson Knox. But yeah, you got to look at last year. He had 9 touchdowns in 15 games. And now we're through week 5, still waiting for touchdown number 1. He got 18 red zone targets last year to Stephon Diggs' 34. And this year he's camping out at 2 compared to 11 for Stephon. So obviously Stephon's on a pace to really kind of repeat what he did last year. Dawson Knox, not so much. So 5 of those 9 touchdowns for him happened by week 5, by the end of week 5 last year. So he hit the ground running. It wasn't a slow burn. It wasn't a heat up situation. It was he's the man, and now he doesn't really look like the man. Obviously, Gabe Davis is doing great stuff. Khalil Shakir's looking strong, and we've got Isaiah McKenzie is also getting some play. Draft pass catching running back. Obviously, Devin Singletary has shown he's a little more dynamic than any of us thought. And so, yeah, Dawson Knox is pretty much, he's not there for the pair. PEAR.
Oh, disappointing tight ends. Oh, it's a sad day. But let's move on to our final position. Let's do some quarterbacks. Let's get back in the green so we can end on a fun down note.
Sweet.
It's Geno time. Geno Smith going undrafted in most leagues. He's the QB6 right now. That's still crazy to me. I even feel like it's wrong reading it. 75% completion percentage, 1,305 yards, 9 touchdowns against only 2 picks. He's averaging 19.98 points per game, so basically just 20. Round it up, Christian, you bastard. I feel like you can safely load up Geno in Superflex leagues from here on out. His points per game has gone up from 13 to that around 20. And it's not like he's playing poorly and just getting the numbers right now. PFF has him graded at a 90.2 overall and an 87.9 passing grade. And then if you need any other, all you need to do is Google that throw he had on the run last week. I don't know if you guys saw it, and honestly, now I forget who it was to, but that was an absolute laser on the run, and he's just balling out right now, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's fun to get him in as a throw in on an Isaiah Likely trade for a pickup grade. Fuck yeah, Paul, I got you, man. But the sad part is that Drew Lock is nipping at his heels, so that's something
Fuck's
to look
sake.
out for. Stupid ass bullshit. But speaking of crazy shit, man, I mean, I know I've talked a lot of trash on Carson Wentz, as has Ron Rivera and every organization that has ever had Carson Wentz.
And everyone on earth.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah. Actually, funny that he was drafted to be, the quarterback 28, and now he is commanding quarterback 10 status. So that's pretty impressive, man. And he's doing all that behind the 21st rated blocking line. So that's good. He's overcoming the odds. And he's also actually got 6 picks, 20 sacks. Those are some bottom 5 numbers. That means that you should be doing pretty shitty. But guess what, man? The guy is tied for top 5. He's in the top 6. It's a tie for 5. I don't know if that makes him top 5 or not. But he's got 10 touchdowns, man. That's tied for 5th. He is in the top 5 for passing yards. He is 2nd in the number of attempts with 42 per game. Holy shit, give him a little more to Terry McLaurin. And second most, you say? Second most attempts? Yes. I've mentioned this before. He is tied with Justin Herbert for the second most 20-plus yard completions. And now I don't believe that. Having read this, I don't believe that. So what are you telling me right now? Are you telling me this guy's throwing picks, he's getting sacks, but that's creating more opportunities for him to throw the ball and get yards and creating fantasy relevance? Are you telling me that Carson Wentz on his 3rd team going to Washington, D.C. has created a time loop to where now he is Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay? I'll take it, man. Let's go. The ground game is bottom 5, so they have to do it through the air, man. So let's do this. Let's get my boy Terry, Uncle Terry, involved in this shit. And Wentz, use an asshole, man. Straight up. Nectarines.
Oh man. All right. So Wentz is balling out. Let's stick it in the NFC East. Stick with the NFC East rather. Daniel Jones, ADP of 25. He's currently ranked 14. It's an 11 spot jump. And he leapfrogged some pretty big names. Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers. He's got 5 total touchdowns on the year, 3 passing, 2 rushing, and almost 300 yards rushing on the ground. I was curious if this year was just a down year kind of across the board for quarterbacks. And it was. The QB 14 last year, which is where Daniel Jones is this year, had 20 more points by week 5 than Daniel Jones does right now. 19 more points in 2020 and 12 more points in 2019. That was because I wanted to look that up because Daniel Jones' numbers don't fly off the paper to you,
No.
but these last 2 games have been pretty good, specifically the game against Green Bay in the second half. Brian Daboll was scheming people up wide open, and Daniel Jones was hitting them where he needed to. And hey, man, I think he can be a consistent little super flex starter for you last year. I think I said it at the beginning of the year. This kid on an improved team, their defense, Andrew Thomas is one of the best offensive linemen in the league right now. The offensive line is playing a bit better. They're doing it without any real weapons outside of Saquon Barkley, and they're just making it happen. And it's cool to see. And they may force themselves in a situation where they have to reevaluate what they're going to do with Jones. I mean, he hasn't been playing amazingly, but if it gets better, I mean, it could lead to that.
That's scary to think about. To me, as a person who has to watch football, Like you think it's all I don't know. You know how it goes. Like if you get a quarterback and then you round out the rest of the team, you're good. But the success they're having with Daniel Jones is just kind of like, what the fuck, dude? I don't know what to think about it. But I guess another thing I don't know what to think about is going to be my pal, my good friend, Jared Goff, who I was kind of a believer in going into the season. He was getting shamed at quarterback 26 on the ADP, and now he's up at quarterback 9, y'all. So deal with that, motherfuckers. And the reason I was into him is because I saw a little PFF throwing some hype at their offensive line, which is 29th in pass blocking. So fucked that up, didn't you, PFF? Thank you though for the work you do. And yeah, you know what else is kind of fucking with him is he's got the 5th worst drop rate at 9.8. So his receivers aren't doing him a ton of favors. So you're telling me that this could get better? The O-line could block better? The pass catchers could start catching the ball more? And Jameson Williams could come back. You know, Swift could be happy. Fuck, dude. It's crazy. So this could be going up the hill right now. He's at 11 touchdowns. He's only thrown 4 picks. So they're doing all this through the air, and Jameson Williams is still being a wild man on the ground. It's insane. It's insane. The party is on in Detroit, and I don't even know. Like, are you supposed to be happy about him doing all this? He's got a 24th highest rated quarterback passer rating with 50 or more dropbacks. And so, like, none of this really makes sense, but it's 100% facts. And it's 100% true because I said it. So deal with that next time you bite into a watermelon.
I'd be very happy if I was a Lions fan right now because Jared Goff is making these games very exciting and they're still 1-4. So they still are in the race for a quarterback because we know Jared Goff's not the guy. But if he can make this season fun and not just be another tank fest, where
he can go to Washington next year.
Yeah, and then he can fuck off and you can have your new rookie and it's going to be amazing.
Or the Colts. He can go to the Colts.
Speaking of guys who fucked off away from the Lions, Matthew Stafford. Oh, my goodness. Drafted as the QB 12, and now he's all the way down at 26. That's right. We're back in the red. People, what an insane drop-off for Matthew Stafford. By week 5 last season, Matthew Stafford had 109 fantasy points. Right now, he's sitting at a cool 54. So over half as bad, or I don't know how you would fucking say that, but
twice as worse.
Bad. Twice as worse. There you go. That just awful. 54 points is not going to get it done. The most significant change for Stafford, he's leading the leagues in sacks right now, 21 times. Through 5 weeks. He had 37 total for the season last season and 21 through 5 weeks. If he continues that rate, he'll end with 71, which would be crazy. And that's Stafford can't move around particularly well. That's going to hurt him. And now the lack of any sort of semblance of a running game is hurting him too. So you can't even bail him out with the play action pass. They don't have to respect the run. The Rams are 32nd in attempts and yards rushing this season. And that's not how you help your quarterback. And then not only that, so all these things are going against Stafford. And as we saw in Detroit, as good as Stafford is, if the team around him isn't good enough, they don't end up really going anywhere. And now, not only all of this is going on, he's also turning the ball over at a way higher rate than he was last year. His turnover-worthy play percentage is up from 3.7 last year to 4.5 this year, and he's already thrown 7 picks. It's just not looking good for Stafford and the Rams right now, and right now, I don't really see how it's going to get any better.
Oh, it might not. Van Jefferson, baby. The van is going to land. But it sounds like you're reading me a book about a man named Matt Ryan, if I'm being honest with you. You know, the dude gets drafted at the quarterback 20 spot, and now he's at quarterback 23. Doesn't feel like a disappointment. But if you've watched the Colts play, then you know it is a disappointment. This line's wrecked, 27th ranked blocking unit, 21 sacks, same as Stafford, 7 picks, same as Stafford. This dude's got an ADOT of 6.9, like some Big Ben shit. 4 of his 5 touchdowns have gone to tight ends. It's just sad. It's sad all over the world. And Johnathan Taylor can't stay on the field. And so there's no kind of balance to bail him out. I think there's a little bit of potential. He needs to activate Michael Pittman. We've seen how Alec Pierce can really take the heat off of him or make him seem like a professional quarterback. But if you look at him while he's playing, he's frustrated. He can't help himself, and he can't help this team. And it's kind of a downward spiral, and I don't know where it's going to stop. It's a miracle that they beat the Chiefs. That was horse manure. Should have been 22 sacks. And what are you going to do, man? Mango.
It's a miracle they won any games at all. They shouldn't have beat Denver really either.
Fuck that game.
And yeah, that was a terrible game. But I'm going to get a little close to home, and we're sticking in the red, and I got to go Aaron Rodgers, drafted as the QB 10. He's sitting at 19 right now. Packers offensive struggles are pretty famous right now. They look good in spurts, but then it seems like any sort of adversity they face whatsoever, they kind of just shut down and don't really function properly. They were up 10 points on the Giants going into halftime and then just couldn't score after that. It didn't really make any sense. Rodgers is kind of the epitome of that. He's playing really, really well for these stretches and then really, really poorly for others. They're just getting knocked off a rhythm. Rodgers looks the most indecisive I've seen him. And I think it's fine. I think it's pretty much what everyone predicted was gonna happen with the Packers offense, with 2 rookies going in, and like they're gonna take some time to figure it out. And we'll see. We'll see if it gets any better. I don't know. I can't for sure say that it will. I feel like it'll be fine. They're missing these plays. A lot of the downfield plays they're missing by just a little bit. So if they can tweak some things. And I'll just say this, Rodgers was the QB 18 through week 5 of last year as well. Kind of a slow start for himself. Does that a lot. So we'll go from there and we'll see what's going to happen. But it is worth noting he's not down 9 spots and the Packers don't look like they can get it going right now.
Well, everyone promised us A.J. Dillon was going to tote the rock and that all those passes that Devontae left behind were going to go to Aaron Jones, but they do still have time to work it out. I'll give you that. I think they'll be all right. I'm with you there. But a team that I don't think will be all right is the Chicago Bears again. Hello for your 4th red team installment. Justin Fields, drafted at 17, currently at 24. Oh, the whole Bears offense is bare awful. So what are you going to do with this 24th ranked pass blocking unit, only giving up 18 sacks, something like that? So I can't complain about that. Good job, guys. Anyway, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Mr. Fields. Among quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks, the time to throw for Mr. Fields is 3.35 seconds, and that is ranked number 35 out of those quarterbacks, and quite a bit of increase. 3.2 is number 34, and it should be interesting for you guys to note that number 33 and number 34 on the time to throw list is Daniel Jones and Lamar Jackson. So something these 3 have in common is they should have the ability to make a play happen on the ground if it's not going to happen through the air. So a little bit of mobility warrants itself to a longer time in the pocket before throwing the ball, of course. Well, unfortunately, Justin Fields is not on pace to exceed his rushing yards from last year. He's not going to get to 40 yards per game, which is pretty abysmal for a dual threat quarterback. And one other thing that should be noted here that he could be suffering from a little more is between Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, right? The Giants, Daniel Jones, and Justin Fields with the Bears. We're talking about some piss poor wide receiver groups. So he's not getting any help from Darnell Mooney or Cole Kmet, and it's kind of suffering all around. But you want to think that this guy has the talent to really make something happen in the NFL level. But I don't know if we're going to be waiting for a year 4 bounce back, because year 2 is going so poorly that I'm running out of hope for year 3, even though I still really believe in this guy and I really, really would like to see him succeed. I've got a lot of faith in him as a person and a quarterback, but I just don't know if he's in the right organization to bring it all together. So, I mean, you know, just like you and that beautiful gal you saw across the diner that one time, you can't elope. So, cantaloupe.
Well, that's it. That's all I got. The fruit salad is done.
You know it is. I'm drinking the juice with high fructose corn syrup in it. Woo!
That does sound like a good salad. I would eat all
is.
Yeah.
I just like fruit, though.
I used to, make the fruit salad with my grandma every Thanksgiving, and I always drank them canned juices, baby.
When are we doing the bracket for fruits?
Whew, that sounds
Fruit
good.
basket?
I like that.
Fruit bracket.
Yeah.
Fruit bracket.
Bracket.
Well, I mean, thanks guys for joining us for our Q1 wrap up. It was a lot of fun. I thought a lot of fun for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I got to tell you, this is going to be a 2-part episode. Part 1, running backs, wide receivers. Part 2, quarterback. Okay,
No,
I don't know.
it's going to be 1. It's going to be way easier.
All right. I didn't know what was the plan was. We hit probably like hour 40.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which kind of, I told
Damn.
Jamie it's going to be a 2-hour episode. So
Oh, it's all good.
Fuck's sake, it was that long? God damn.
yeah, I don't know if you saw me start to put down the rubber on the road. I was trying to turn and burn them.
Well, we can end this one first.
Well, I thought, whoa, hey.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody. Thanks, Pro Football Focus. Wait, what is it? Pro
Peace.
Sports Rep.